All right, so good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is the IGTV editorial, and William H. Murray with me. There you go. Just popped you into the background there. And Bill, you're going to be talking about RSA security once again. The conference and more risk from RSA as borne out by your friend Bill Schneier. All right, take it away, Bill.
2 weeks ago, I reported on a panel from RSA. I pointed out that RSA is a good place to turn ideas into action. This week, I'd like to report on a plenary session talk given by Bruce Schneier. Bruce, the author of Applied Cryptography, used to be my favorite cryptographer. In his talk, Bruce mentioned that he chose cryptography over other fields because he did not like people very much. Trust me when I tell you that Bruce knows more about cryptography, about getting the most out of it, than anyone. On the other hand, along with that knowledge comes awareness of its limitations. After considering these limitations, and in spite of his feelings about people, Bruce converted to security. I use the word converted advisedly, since leaving cryptography for security is like leaving the religion of your birth to join a covenant. Now, you all know how I feel about cryptographers presenting themselves as security experts. So you'll not be surprised to learn that I viewed this conversion with some skepticism. I confess that I was pleasantly surprised. Bruce embraced his new field with zeal, not to say he became a zealot. He ranks in my pantheon with Peter Tippett, David Kennedy, and Marcus Ranum, if somewhat behind Bob Courtney and Don Parker. I chose not to talk about where they rank, even where the group ranks. I even wrote the preface for Bruce's book on email security. In his RSA talk, Bruce went beyond security to public policy criticism. He spoke of three things, three big risks. The first was big data, the industry, like big oil or big tobacco, including Facebook, Google, Amazon, eBay, Twitter, Checkpoint, Experian, Apple, and others, that are collecting, storing, and selling data about us. Bruce sees big data as a threat to personal security and privacy. In the face of the falling cost of storage, big data is even giving away service that makes it cheaper for us to keep data than even to make the decision to throw it away, much less to erase it. In his words, the marginal utility of saving some data is so low because the cost of saving it is so cheap. You know this in your own lives. We all hit a point some years ago when we stopped throwing away email that wasn't important and started just, well, not saving it, but just leaving it. All because it was just easier. At some point, search became cheaper than sort. When that happened, we just saved everything, because why not? I sympathize. I don't even salvage old computers anymore. I just add them to the LAN, add their disk drives to the file system. I scan all incoming documents and then add the paper to a big box in the basement. Cameras and other sensors are so ubiquitous that I warn children that they may never again be in a room without a camera, and that every image of them will persist forever. The risk is not so much from the data, or at least the risk that Bruce is concerned about, or even the industry per se, but rather how the industry leverages its size and monetizes the data. For example, the industry now asserts its right to aggregate data across applications, for example, to combine information from search with that from messaging. Bruce asserts that we are surrendering the control to big data, and they are selling us to all comers, including the state. He's concerned not only about our surrender of control over data, but over the technology. Holding up his iPhone, he complained that I cannot do things on this machine that I can do on my computer. I can't even erase data to my satisfaction. I can't run an antivirus program for anybody's satisfaction. Apple doesn't give me the same access control that I have on my personal computer. This might be good for performance, but for security, it depends. End quote. Boy, it sure does. He goes on. There's kind of a war against general-purpose computing going on. I actually believe the companies realized that they made a mistake when they created general-purpose computers, because they gave users too much control, and they're trying to get that control back. Well, that's like putting the genie back in the bottle. One of the things I like best about Bruce is that libertarian streak. Actually, I was there. The modern computer took off when von Neumann and others replaced purpose-configured calculators with the general-purpose computer. Computers were so expensive that the cost had to be spread across the largest possible set of the highest value applications. It required a huge number of very cheap computers to create a market for purpose-built apps like we're using today. On the other hand, that generality, particularly procedures as data, is the source, not the solution to our security problems. However Bruce and his peers feel about it, both iOS and Apple's policies have been good for security. As Steve has said, if you want porn, if you can manage viruses, get an Android. iOS computers are for your mother and your kids. If you can believe the rumors coming out of Cupertino, iOS may even replace OS X on the Mac. Even if that is not true, I would replace OS X on my MacBook with iOS if I had the choice. Indeed, with my security hat on, I would like to see all user programming eliminated. Not to worry, Bruce. Even if I succeeded with that idea, user programming is so valuable that some SOB would just reinvent it. Second on Bruce's list of big risks is ill-advised regulation by, or at least in the name of, law enforcement. He specified both the use of fear to pass restrictive legislation and the internet kill switch. I listened last night to Senate committee hearings on cybersecurity, on the cybersecurity bill. The senators asked leading questions designed to elicit fear. For example, can any enterprise network be penetrated? Well, of course they can at some cost, but the answer, of course, was an unqualified yes. They then pretend that the only possible answer justifies the legislation that they advocate. Bruce visualized the internet kill switch as a big red button on the president's desk. His concern was that someone else might use it. Mine is that the president is not qualified to use it, and in any case, would use it for political purposes. Bruce's third concern is the cyber war arms race. Not cyber war, but build up to it. I talked about that with you last week. Needless to say, I agree with Bruce that there is a lot of money in cyber arms at the moment, and the results will be instability, more government control, more money poured into standards, and less security and privacy for us all. The history of the 20th century suggests that arms races do not inevitably lead to war, but they are pursued at the expense of other, more valuable social objectives. While the bureaucrats will never acknowledge it, the build in cyber arms is destabilizing. Cyber wars, arms races are inherently risky to civilization. Note that Bruce's list does not contain any of the 6 big things that go bump in the night that we talked about from the RSA panel 2 weeks ago. Moreover, they are not the kind of enterprise risks that most of us are engaged to manage. Rather, they are societal risks. They are driven in part by economics, in part by technology, and in part by fear. As security professionals, we cannot do much about the economics. For example, the falling price of storage, while generally a good thing, will, whatever else we do, inevitably lead to gratuitous and persistent copies, and those will lead to leakage. This will alter the effectiveness and efficiency of our efforts to resist leakage. We can influence technological choice. And, of course, as professionals, we should resist both the use of fear to justify laws that increase the power of the state and increase our risk in the pretense of somehow magically reducing risk. These are not things that legislation is going to be able to address. They are things that will require education, and that education is what warrants our being called professionals and justifies our being paid the big bucks. See you next week.
All right, Bill. Great editorial, and obviously I think I'm in agreement with you in a lot of areas.